Okay guys, welcome to another Cosmo Reviews. The Humble Weekly Bundle is out again this week after a week's hiatus. So this week it's the Focus Home Interactive 2, or basically the second bundle for Focus Home Interactive. Again, this is not really a company that stands out immediately, that sort of say, to me at least, that says, oh yeah, I know all those games that they were made. But actually checking them out, there's a few quite interesting ones. So I'm going to run you through them as quick as I can. Here we go. There's me. Hello. I'm actually still wearing my headphones. Don't know why. Take those off right now. Okay. So let's start with the first tier. Obviously, is the pay one buck or more to unlock, and you got 5 games here now. What I will say is I did actually receive the email which told me that there is apparently $334 worth of games here. So, and by checking out a few of the prices, I can actually confirm that quite a few of, especially even the $1 tier ones, are at least, a lot worth a lot more in money than the actual $1, which I'm converting roughly in my head to pounds, so I can tell you that a few of these games are definitely a couple of quid in Steam right now. So you're getting quite a good deal for $1. Mars Warlogs is an RPG, a relatively good RPG. It's been reviewed quite nicely in Steam. It's probably worth mentioning that a fair few of the games here haven't received not great reviews from Metacritic. They're sort of 60s, 70s. Whether or not you want to believe that or not is something that you yourself have to look. I personally don't always look at. I sort of take Metacritic with a pinch of salt, because it's a sort of average of everything. And the trouble is, if you get lots of negative reviews or lots of positive reviews, it sort of balances it. It sort of brings good scores down slightly. So you have to sort of read the reviews and see what you make of it yourself. The Steam review section is also very useful, because at least it gives you an idea of what actual gamers have played, and you can see and everything, see how recent they are and so on and so forth. Reviews are funny little things, and you've got to be sort of careful what you look at and how you do it. That's my sort of feelings on reviews. It's kind of difficult to say that you should trust them all or you shouldn't trust them all, but at the same time, they're obviously coming from someone who's played the game. Anyway, Mars Warlogs. Sorry, I'm going to call off topic there. Overall, the trailers look quite good for it. I haven't played it. In fact, I will say now, I have not played any of these games. A few of them I do own already. Whether or not that was before the previous bundle or through other means, I can't tell you, because I can't honestly remember. But yeah, it sort of looks like a what was it called, Red Faction-esque game with different sort of with the difference is that rather than a first-person shooter, it's an RPG. It looks fairly cool. I'll give it that. It looks pretty interesting. Certainly, maybe a game I'll look at in the future, but at the moment, it's worth $1. Let's put it that way. Space Run is a real-time strategy game. Excuse me, I'll just have my drink. Keep myself hydrated. Tower defense style gameplay. From what I understand, it's fairly interesting, because it sort of takes. I'm trying to explain how. Let's explain it, because I watched the trailer earlier and it's sort of. So you're basically building a spaceship, and you have to sort of do different missions and different situations. So you sort of protect the cargo from aliens. So it's sort of kind of like preparing your ship for a certain mission. You know what you might encounter, and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting sort of take on the whole tower defense, real-time strategy sort of esque game. You sort of have to plan ahead and prepare yourself, make sure you got the right kind of weapons and stuff like that. Beyond that, I can't really give you much more than that. It looks quite interesting. Whether it's actually any good or not, I can't really tell you, but again, for the price and considering how expensive Space Runner actually is in Steam right now, it definitely is worth it just for that tier. Pix the Cat kind of reminds me of this is gonna get me. Choo Choo Rocket. If you ever know what Choo Choo Rocket is, then you have at some point played it on a handheld or Dreamcast. Anyone remember the Dreamcast? No? Just me then. So yeah, it's a kind of game where it's a fairly interesting game in the sense of that you can actually play it multiplayer, but it's kind of like sort of Bomberman-esque game where you have to collect certain things and move it and limit your moves and everything. And you play sort of a 4-player sort of match where you attack each other and everything. So it looks pretty cool. I'll give it that. You know, it looks an interesting kind of game. So yeah, you basically collect eggs and they follow you around, kind of like Yoshi style, if you know what I mean. But what was I going to say? Moving on. Yesterday is an adventure game I hadn't really heard of before. It's supposed to be quite good. It's got quite good reviews. Sort of a mystery-esque adventure game where you play a character searching through what was that, searching through a mystery, searching for answers to what's going on with certain people, different characters and everything. It's quite good and interesting. It's quite interesting. It's quite good visual style. You know, kind of, if you like the sort of style of somewhere between sort of Broken Sword and, I was about to say Grim Fandango because it's 3D, but it's not really. Well, we'll go with Grim Fandango. It's a 3D-esque sort of Broken Sword kind of game that if you've played any adventure games like that, then you probably will enjoy. It's supposed to be quite interesting story-wise. I can't comment on it more than that, you know. So yeah, okay. Final Exam. Now, this looks kind of like if you took Left 4 Dead and sort of combine it with Streets of Rage and some other weird and wonderful things, and you get a sort of cartoon-esque side-scrolling fighting game where you fight against sort of monsters and zombies and ghosts and different creatures and things like that. It's supposed to be quite good online because you play 4-player online or 2-player co-op, and basically you score points by fighting things, basically experience and unlocking weapons and everything like that. So it's more an arcade-esque kind of game, kind of a silly kind of game, but you know, it's probably worth a good look, just for the hell of it. Okay, that's the first tier done. I somehow feel like I'm trying to review something. How can I review something when I haven't played it? I don't know. It sounds good. Maybe I should stop doing it. War game. So we're gonna move on to the next tier. At the moment, for me, it's $5.52, which off the top of my head is like £4.50, roughly. I get lost in the pounds dollar thing. Now, this kind of stuff. Like I said before, real-time strategy is kind of an interesting aspect for me because you can do a multitude of different things. You can be turn-based, you can be realistic, you can be, you know, top-down, command and conquer style and everything like that. I've never really been this interested in sort of the war game kind of real-time strategy where you're basically putting, you know, fleets of units in different places and things like that. I'd rather sort of create loads of tanks and just attack. You know, but from what I understand, this is a very strategic real-time strategy game. You've got to sort of make sure you've got the right sort of tanks for the right sort of situations. It's kind of a I don't know. It's kind of more of a strategy sort of. You have to be sort of more aware of what strategies and what units and things like that you're going to be doing. So it's definitely worth it money-wise, but you have to really be into that kind of thing to sort of understand what you're doing. I think you have to sort of be very aware, very strategic, very tactical for this kind of game. At least that's my understanding of it. Contrast. Now, I actually do have this on my wish list because I quite like the idea of it, but because the price has never been quite right for me. Another cup of tea, another drink. Hang on. It's a third-person platformer with a little twist, whereas the person you play can basically slip into a it calls it a parallel 2D shadow world, and you basically sort of run along on your platform, and you see on a wall sort of a series of shadows. You can slip into the shadow and sort of walk along the wall, and then slip out and everything. So it's quite a clever little thing. There's a puzzle platformer game. It's got quite good reviews, again, from various points. I've heard from various people and various things. I certainly have friends who've played it and heartily recommend it. So definitely, if you're interested in that kind of thing, for the price at the moment, definitely worth it. Okay. Game of Thrones. Now, I wasn't entirely aware that there was more than one. I was getting muddled with the Telltale game. But then I thought, no, that doesn't make sense. It's kind of like what would happen if The Witcher 3 was in Game of Thrones, from what I understand. Sadly, the reviews of it aren't great. They're averagely good. You know, there's nothing more than that. If you're into Game of Thrones, that kind of stuff, it might be interesting to just own it. There is quite a few bits of DLC for it. From what I can see from the actual description, it doesn't actually include it in the bundle, but it might be worth just owning the base game and then deciding if you want to actually fork out for the actual DLC itself. So if that tickles your fancy, definitely something that, me personally, it's not something that really appeals to me. I apparently own it. I don't know why I own it, but again, maybe it was from the previous bundle. Overall, I think it's just a case of, if you're into Game of Thrones, then it's worth a look at. Cities Excel. Now, I used to be a big SimCity fat guy. I used to love playing SimCity. I sort of grew out of it and got a bit sort of, it's the same thing. After the first sort of 1,000 years on the game, you sort of get sort of, it's not going really beyond. I've heard a lot of good things about Cities XL and XXL and all that kind of stuff, because it offers a lot more freedom, a lot more sort of complexity. So for the actual price and everything of this, I think I actually own this one, but I've never played it, unfortunately. But I can certainly say it certainly sounds worth it if you're into anything like SimCity, or certainly, the name of the game has escaped me now. You know what I'm talking about. You know roughly what I'm trying to say. Is that if you're into sort of those kind of simulation games and building up cities and worlds, it's worth a look at, definitely. Bound by Flame. Now, from what I've read of it, obviously it's an RPG, and it's trying, I suppose, to again capture the elements of sort of whether you're all Lord of the Rings or The Witcher or that kind of, it's going that kind of way. There's not much more I can really say about it other than that. It's definitely one of those RPGs that sounds quite good. The trailer looks quite interesting, but other than that, I can't really give you much more than that. It's quite a good RPG from what I've heard, but it's one of those ones that just sort of fades into the background a little bit. I wish I could give you more on that. I sort of read about it and watched about it and read other reviews about it, but there's not much I can say beyond what is already out there. So, oh dear. Thyrium is again another real-time strategy game. I assume it's trying to be sort of Supreme Commander, Total Annihilation-esque game, where StarCraft 2 kind of as well. So you sort of have the usual different sort of real-time strategy elements. So you've got different sort of races, different sort of units, the different sort of weaponry systems, from what I've seen, it's fairly cool, very good looking. It's got some quite good reviews. It's got some quite interesting elements to it, and for the price at the moment, definitely worth it. So far, I'm definitely leaning towards the green area. Now I think it's getting a little interesting for me anyway. The blue tier, well, the first blue tier. There's a second blue tier which I'll get to in a minute. The blue tier. Now, farming simulator. I have no inclination to play this game whatsoever. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that like the simulator games, Truck Simulator, Farming Simulator. I have played Goat Simulator for my sins. I have sworn off it despite all the interesting sort of DLC elements, the bread one and the most recent Payday 2 one, which I'm curious about, but I'm not playing them. Never ever. As fantastic as it looks, the idea of simulating my own farm, taking care of the cows and everything, it does not appeal to me in any capacity whatsoever. Sad as that may be. So I'm going to move just straight on. If it does to you guys, by all means enjoy it. It's got it is what it is. It's a simulator. You do what you do. You take care of things. Again, it's like a city simulator, but it's good. Of Orcs and Men is another RPG-esque game, but rather than take on as a person, you're actually an orc warrior or a goblin master of assassination and stealth and stuff, and you've got to do a dangerous mission. So you've got to fight through hostile worlds. You've got to basically develop your character, and the idea is hopefully to sort of to kill the emperor and help your own race. Now that's just from that description and from the stuff I got from Steam. It's got some fairly good reviews, but it's not. It's one of the ones that in Metacritic is 60 to 70s. If it interests you, by all means go for it, because I can't say whether it's good or not any more than the reviews can. Okay. Moving on, Cities XXL, which is the sequel to Cities XL, amazingly. Again, I can't really say much more than I said for Cities XXL. Sorry, the one before it, Cities XL, in that it's more powerful, it's bigger, it's better, supposedly. And if you like Cities XL, I want Cities XXL, then go for it. Absolutely, go for it. Blood Bowl is, I have heard, because I'm a fan of the Warhammer stuff, to a certain degree anyway. It's a turn-based combat game. It doesn't really appeal to me because I'm not a big fan of turn-based stuff, especially with tactical stuff. Just because I don't know, it's never, something just doesn't feel right about turn-based combat and stuff like that. It works and it doesn't work for me sometimes. Certainly in this, it's sort of and it's worth about £5 at the moment on Steam, so it's not a big deal really, but as things are considered, it's a nice looking game. Now this does actually appeal to me. Now I'm a fan of the Thief games, and Styx, Master of Shadows, from what I understand, is somewhat similar to it, but with RPG-esque elements of it. It has got some good reviews from not just from Steam and Metacritic, but also from various gaming magazines, review companies. There is quite an interesting there's quite an interesting sort of feeling to this game. It's definitely one that apparently is a gem in a lot of people's collections. So it's actually on my wish list. So right now I'm definitely looking at paying the $15 or more to unlock that. Now here's where things get a little interesting but a little bit weird. There is the $40 one is where you actually get all of the games plus a few more in this focus selection pack, but it does warn you that if you buy the focus selection pack, what you actually get is almost all of the things in the Humble Bundle, plus a few other things that aren't in the Humble Bundle. Now, I haven't played some of them, but the things you don't get in the things that you get in this pack are not in the Humble Bundle are Another World, the 20th anniversary edition, which is actually one of the games I have played. I actually played the original and the new one, and I can say that Another World is good in terms of it being a classic. It's annoying because it's one of those games that sort of has checkpoints in its levels, and if you screw up and die, you go back to that checkpoint, and it's very easy to screw up and die because it's not always clear what you're supposed to be doing. It's got some very cheap deaths. You know, it's actually quite interesting to look at it, and amazing the fact that it's actually 20 years old. It's a classic, absolute classic, and I certainly recommend you playing it at least once, or at least watching someone play it at least once. So that's worth it. Got Fairy Legends of Avalon. I have no idea what that is. Probably should have researched it, but I didn't. Game of Thrones, Mars War Logs, also makes Pro Cycling Manager 2015 really doesn't appeal to me. Raw, Realms of Ancient War. Runaway, from what I understand, is another adventure game. I think I actually own it, and I have looked at it before, so it might be quite interesting for that. Now, whether that's worth $40 or not, I can't honestly say. You know, it's something that I think in a sense you kind of have to ask the question: do you want the extra games? Yes or no? Now, from what I understand, from what I looked at my Steam library, I own Runaway, and I definitely have Another World. So the answer to me is no. No, it's not. But although you receive some of the other keys, it doesn't really sort of shout out to me that I want to buy all of these games in this pack, because at least I'll get, it doesn't seem to work for me, that one. So definitely at the moment, although I'm going to double check everything, I think for me it's going to be the $15. But yeah, and apparently you also get some coupons as well. So if you're interested in Farming Simulator 15 or Active Aggression, which is... what is Active Aggression? Not sure. And Blood Bowl 2, which again doesn't really appeal to me, then it's worth a go. So that's my take on the Humble Weekly Bundle this week. I hope you enjoy. I hope my review is useful in some way, or at least meaningful in some way. As always, guys, like and subscribe if you like this kind of thing. Let me know what you think, and I will hopefully be back next week for a new Humble Bundle, if they do one, and another weekly bundle, again, if they do one. Also next week, in just a little over a week's time, is the new Humble Monthly Bundle, which I will be reviewing. There is also a sale on the Humble store, which I was going to review every so often, but in general the sales are pretty much simplistic enough, and my advice is, as always, just see what's going on each day and see if there's anything you want or need. That's my take on the weekly bundle, guys. Sorry, the video is quite long, but there was quite a lot of games to go through to give you my general feeling of. But that's always the way it is. So once and for all, that's Cosmo the Coder. Till next time.